there, it's Anonymous Tea, where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day today, sending good vibes, sending positivity, sending blessings, and good energy to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we are talking TGIF. You guys know why you are here. Shout out to the new subbies. I'm not AI generated, you guys. I'm legitimately me. I'm sorry I can't help my voice. If you find it annoying, oh well. Like I can't change my voice. I can't fake it. Not AI. Sorry. Nonetheless, in this video, we are going to be discussing Claudia Jordan has responded since the leaked Zoom calls. So we are going to take a listen. This is shout out on Twitter to Mad Beefs. We have two clips that we're going to listen to, and then we are going to give some commentary and reaction to.
Conspiring behind your back, but in your face, you were the one getting blamed for the ending of the show.
I mean, of course it was, made me feel fucked up inside. And like, damn, like, I was like, damn, this was all going on, like, behind, like, this was all really going on. Because actually when Funky left, I thought we were cool. And then he made a video where I'm like, I guess we're not cool, because it was sad when he left. And then he made a video to us saying, like, he still loves us. And then within a week, it was all my fault. And I didn't know, I hate when I don't know someone's feeling away, but we're still carrying on like,
oh,
and then later on you hear like all these
that's how you feel about me?
Things that I didn't know, and I wish I would have known sooner, you know. And it was hurtful, but what the fuck, you know, like, what can I do? I mean, I don't want to change my personality to turn into, well, fuck it, I ain't gonna look up for nobody anymore.
Absolutely not.
Because I'm not, that's not me. I am someone that, like I said, I actually enjoy like bringing opportunities to people. I love saying, hey, can I call you right now? Guess what, bitch, I got this, you know, I got something for you or whatever. Or can you work on this project? Yeah, of course I felt. I didn't know that this was all going on behind. I didn't know that these conversations were happening. So, of course I felt like...
Speak louder, Claudia.
Of course I felt like, I don't know, I was disappointed. I was, that shit was hurtful.
So
but can I say this?
Yes.
A captain always goes down with the ship.
Yeah.
I need you to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you got blamed in the end...
How was the same person that created it?
I know.
The bad guy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, who takes their own show?
Who takes their own show?
Nobody.
And I would love to have gone 10 years. I wanted to get, before Funky left, we were so close to actually getting into the studio.
Wow.
So we were at the pinnacle, like the height. The numbers were the highest that we've ever had. And I just want to be clear about this. I know people talk about the numbers. Our numbers came from 17 different platforms. So yes, our numbers on YouTube when Funky left definitely went down on YouTube. And then we spiked here and there, but it wasn't, you know, that.
The same.
But also, our numbers when he was on the show were never as high as his numbers. So when he says he took his fans with him, like, well, you didn't bring them to, where were they when we were on the show? Like, we needed 10,000 of those people, you know? But I think he's good over there doing his show. You know, I think he likes being a one-man show, and that's fine. I like being part of a team. And that's not to say one is better than the other. Like some people, I like being on a track team. Mm-hmm. I like being on a bowling team. I like that. And some people work better solo. But yeah, it definitely felt fucked up. But
so it sounds like a bunch of ego from what I'm hearing, from what the fans are saying. It seems like a lot of evil.
Okay, that is the first clip. Now we are going to listen to the second clip.
Go back and look at the roast about me. They talk about I can't have kids and all kind of shit. They talk about my fertility.
Yeah, so and I'm getting to a point. So he made a comment on the fact that he thought it was basically disgusting. He talked about Chloe Bailey, and I wonder if he felt like that was as disgusting as well. So as someone who was on the show, what did you feel about the double standards that people had, that your co-host had?
Here's the thing. When people like someone, none of the shit that they do bother them.
Right.
It's not disgusting. It's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can clearly go back to 3 years of TGIF and find times where we talked. Well, some people on the show talk real bad about people and said some really
gross. He said it was gross. That's right. So yeah.
TGIF has talked about all kinds of shit that was gross,
including him when he talked. Didn't he call Chloe ugly?
He did, and that was nothing we had to apologize.
To me, that was way more gross than anything that. Absolutely.
It got crazy. And just like Alex, he was complaining about someone, the level of the show was down since Armon is here. But when Funky was on the show, and we would have conversations about shooting behind dumpsters, sex parties.
Who went to the bathroom behind the dumpster?
Well, one of the cast members said talked about his own experience. Like, and it was a running joke on our show. But my point is to say we had a lot of immature banter. That when everyone was in a good place, it was funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was, oh my God, I can't. I remember one time that Funky went in on Serena Williams makeup, right? Years later, when he's gone, and then the same topic comes up, I was like, oh, I cannot disrespect a black queen. Like, he was on this, like, women empowerment thing. And I was just like, but who are you right now?
Because you were laughing at it just...
But it's again, it depends on the source. Like, if I like you, I'm going to be like, oh, that's just funny. If I don't like you, I'm going to be like, oh, wow, that's so immature of you. I just like the same energy being cast.
Yeah.
So that was the end of the second clip. So I think people forget kind of everything that had transpired with this whole TJF saga, because I see some people who are like, well, why is Claudia Jordan talking about she was to blame and all this and that? Well, the thing was, that was what Funky Dineva implied when he originally left the show, right? Originally, he made it seem like it was an issue with the pay and that they weren't going to give him the pay increase. And then, like I said, some people were being so messy in his chat and saying, oh, Claudia Jordan is dragging you and this and that. And then that's when he called her a bleep. And then basically, gave his own little commentary on, Claudia Jordan. And that was that. And so that's what Claudia is referencing, thinking that everything was good with her and Funky Dineva. And in reality, it wasn't. And then also speaking to, the roast and comparing, what happened with her roast. Now, I'm actually surprised with what was said at her roast, like her fertility issues and the rumors of her with different celebrities and things. I am surprised that was not even immediately nipped in the bud, right? But again, ultimately, when it was all said and done, yes, the roast ultimately effectively, the show was no longer on the air afterwards, right? However, that I wouldn't say that was necessarily the deciding factor. It was just effectively the nail in the coffin, since there were already other HR related issues. But a few things that I wanted to say in reaction to this, like I said, initially, it was made that this was all Claudia Jordan's fault. And like it was said in the video, why would the captain of the ship destroy their own show, right? But here's the thing I will say in regards to Claudia Jordan is that you've been in this industry for decades, right? So that some of your friends and colleagues and things that are messy and everything else, even if they are in media, doesn't mean that they're going to mesh well with you, right? And if you can kiki with them and be messy about other people, even mutual people you may know, how did you think that this was not going to turn around on you? I don't understand. Not everybody is going to, all of a sudden kiss your feet because you gave them this opportunity, right? They're going to try to parlay it and see how they can maximize this opportunity and navigate and network to try to get something bigger than this, right? So I didn't understand that piece as to why Claudia ever thought that Al, Funky Dineva, or Armon for that matter, any of these people were going to be loyal to her. We've seen this time again, especially in reality TV of all things, right? Where people give you an opportunities, people recommend you for a reality show, you audition for the reality show, you get the reality show, you start to build a fan base, you start to get clout, you start to get an ego and start feeling yourselves. And then next thing you know, you don't know the person anymore that helped you get this opportunity in the first place, that went to bat for you, that advocated for you and all these things, right? But with that being said, too, everybody has been messy in the situation, right? Everyone has talked about each other. Everyone has complained to Joyce, to HR, whomever, about each other, trying to get each other fired. So that alone in itself is not a conducive work environment, right?
And as far as the ratings, we never truly knew the ratings outside of what the viewership we saw on YouTube. So also in this clip, Claudia is speaking to that there were 17 other platforms that also carried the show, right? And said that even after Funky Dineva left, yes, the views on YouTube went lower. However, the viewership went up on other platforms that the show was airing on, and that they had their highest numbers on other platforms compared to YouTube. But then Claudia also kind of threw a little, dig like, hey, Funky, you said that your fans, made up the show, but essentially more of your fans were there after you left the show that we could have utilized when the show was happening. So there was that. And then also as well, talking about, some of the, I guess, trying to compare what Armon Wiggins said in his roast to the roast that Claudia had to some of the problematic things that Funky Dineva has said on TGIF, whether it was about Chloe Bailey, whether it was about Blue Ivy. And I know some people, there are going to be mixed reviews on this, and people are going to be like, oh, well, that was funny, right? But I didn't like it. I called it out when it happened. I thought it went too far, and it was completely unnecessary. Listen, you can have fun shade at people and throw shade and not go below the belt and not go too far, right? But sometimes for certain people, they feel like they have to say the most malicious and nasty read of somebody to get attention, to go viral about something, and that's their prerogative, right? But don't be upset when people come back and they're offended, or people come back and they're upset, or people feel that you're, specifically targeting black women when you go that far. Right? So nonetheless, and then she also mentioned how people are flip-flopping, right? Depending on who is giving the commentary, who is giving the shade. And she gave Serena Williams as an example. Previously, so-and-so was in the wrong if you said anything shady about Serena Williams, depending on who the person was that said it, whether it was about her appearance or whatever. And then fast forward a few years later, now there's new shade about Serena Williams, and since it's coming from a different source, now it's funny. Now we can kiki and haha about it, and there's no backlash. And so essentially she's saying people aren't keeping the same energy with their commentary. And here's the thing, two things can be true, right? I am always, of this, right? That's why I'm team nobody in this situation, because I feel everyone was messy. Everyone was messy, down to the recorded Zoom calls, down to all of the talent that was on the show and behind the scenes. All of this was messy. It was a chaotic work environment. It was a toxic work environment. But even with all of that being said, right, everyone has to hold themselves accountable. And I think where people are confused as to why Funky Dineva is in this is because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Funky Dineva Carlos King interview, because nobody was talking about TGIF. Nobody. We had moved on to other things that were taking place, right? And then the interview happened, and because Funky Dineva refused to denounce anything about Al Reynolds, it was suspect. And because Funky Dineva framed it, even though he wasn't malicious about it, but basically in his roundabout way, basically said that Armon Wiggins sabotaged an opportunity at Fox Soul, at TGIF, and basically made it seem like, because of the fact that the last thing that we saw was this roast, that he effectively, was a contributing factor and all of these things. But the way that it came across, it still kind of was backhanded, because you're also saying as well that, oh yeah, by the way, originally T.S. Madison was supposed to have this gig, right? Not you. So it was, still like kind of like those backhanded, like, hey, we're going to compliment you. We think you're the next best thing. But I'm also going to throw shade to you and remind you that you would not be here if T.S. Madison didn't turn down the position because of money, right? So, but if, with that being said, right, Armon was right to defend himself, and Claudia was right to defend herself. The Zoom audios, regardless of how long or short they were, put a spotlight on Al Reynolds and his messy behavior, who still is not acknowledging this, by the way, is posting away. I believe he's out in Napa Valley now and posting about from his cottage and all of the amenities and things that he has. It is completely pretending that there is not a huge scandal going on, that there is not a huge fire surrounding him that is taking place, pretending that he is just going to show you the high life, the life of luxury, as if nothing is going down and nothing is completely and utterly chaotic. I don't think anybody is saying that Armon is a victim of any sort, right? He was made a scapegoat, absolutely, but I don't think anybody is saying that he is a victim, because didn't he on like the first episode call out a few content creators that were throwing shade, I guess, at him getting this opportunity and saying that he was going to fail and was going to, was not going to last, and he immediately got on camera and was like, okay, to you, look at me now, and all of this. But we didn't know at the time that he wasn't even getting the 250K, right? And we didn't know at the time that it was never going to be a setup for him to be successful in the first place. But what I think other people are trying to say is the moment that you found out that you were basically being utilized as a pawn, why did you stick around? And the moment, why didn't you negotiate your worth for a higher salary and leverage your, time here on YouTube and your opportunities that you've worked with other people in this industry to leverage a higher salary than the 70K that you ended up, signing on the dotted line for? Because for all of the tomfoolery and shenanigans that you went through, it wasn't worth it. And you make way more on YouTube anyways. So none of this was absolutely worth it in the grand scheme of things. But at what people are saying is, if you knew you came into this with all this chaos, and Funky Dineva is calling you even ahead of time, telling you not to talk to this person, to talk to that person, and all these things, that it's all a hot mess. It is all an absolute hot mess, right? So nonetheless, that was essentially it, you guys. I don't know if there's going to be any more leaked Zoom calls. Like I said, I'm team nobody. I just felt, when Funky Dineva left, everybody tried to put it all on Claudia. At the time, I know some people have amnesia and short-term memory, or maybe weren't following the story back then, but that was the narrative when Funky Dineva kind of threw shade, because we knew, obviously, that he had nothing bad to ever say about Al Reynolds. We knew that when he was shouting out the people at Foxhole, he did not mention Claudia, and specifically mentioned that he was still cool with Al Reynolds and talked to him on a regular basis. So we knew in a roundabout way who he was throwing shade at, right? And we knew, obviously, the shade that was being thrown when it was Armon that got the opportunity, because then, of course, people came out and said, well, I was offered the opportunity, and he was the last, ditch effort and all these things. And people, had, a lot to say, right? And then there was just nothing but chaos. And even Al Reynolds tried to bait people into thinking that he was going to give his side of the story when Funky Dineva left, and as well once the cancellation of the show happened officially. And none of that transpired, right? But we saw, obviously, the tension on the show. We saw times where the show randomly would go on hiatus, or certain people would be missing after a problematic comment that was made during a particular segment. We've seen that happen more than once on the show. Right? But now it's essentially with these with this Carlos King interview, that's why the leaked Zoom calls happen. Because effectively enough people from the audience thought that a picture was being made that this was all Armon Wiggins' fault, and Al Reynolds is completely innocent. He's the consummate professional. And they put out, whomever put it out, right? Because we're not just going to assume, whoever it was, because there was more than 3 people that were on those Zoom calls. Whoever leaked the Zoom calls to the content creators, ultimately was there to highlight, listen, this is going to validate what Armon said about there being a scandal against him that was completely fabricated, but was basically gossip fodder that was being utilized with Joyce and other executives that flat out wasn't true. And then the other Zoom call is to say, oh, you think Al Reynolds is this nice professional person that you see on the show? Well, this is how he moves behind the scenes, which is completely unprofessional, right? And I'm sorry, right? Even though Joyce is messy, and even though Joyce, should have had a better handle on how to navigate this and how to run this properly, even with that being said, she still technically was Al Reynolds' superior, right? She still technically was in charge of, the rules and regulations. She was the person, obviously, that was giving to certain people her notes, her feedback on all of the on-air talent per episode on what she felt was wrong and what she felt could have been done better. It just accidentally or purposefully ended up in the hands of Al Reynolds, which it was not supposed to. It was supposed to be relayed to him by a third party, I assume, by an assistant or somebody else, but it completely and utterly, went to bleep. But then somehow a 180 happened to where Al and Joyce were cool enough to where you fast forward to the call with Claudia and Armon, and anytime anything that was brought up about Al Reynolds and how he was trying to play everybody against each other, you see Joyce kind of go into defense mode of Al, right? Which was like a 180 from the previous call where he's like cussing her out, right? So, but nonetheless, with all this being said, I don't see a situation where the show could come back, especially not with this same group of on-air hosts. I know they keep saying, I know Funky has said it, and I think even Claudia said it, and a few other people have said it, we would all work together again. No, you guys won't. No, you guys won't. You know you won't. Because there was too much mess to begin with. There was too much two-faced behavior to begin with, right? But here is the thing, everyone to an extent, with the exception of Al Reynolds, has held themselves accountable, right? Claudia and Armon have held themselves accountable that they were messy, that they were being two-faced. Funky Dineva, to an extent, but not really, but to a smaller extent, admitted that, he was messy. He admitted that he was being petty, going live at the same time as TGIF aired and all that, right? And that he felt a certain type of way. The only person in this, though, who hasn't owned their messiness, who hasn't owned that they were two-faced, was Al Reynolds, right? And it didn't help matters that you had his friend, his Sean person, go on a few platforms on his behalf and just make it seem like everything was Claudia and Armon's fault for the show failing. And that just didn't make any sense. That didn't resonate at all, considering it was Claudia that, was the ones that recommended Al and Funky Dineva in the first place for the show to happen. So, and it was successful enough to go from a couple of days a week to 5 days a week and kicking off Cocktails with Queens. So it's just this whole blame game that's taking place now, it just doesn't make sense because everyone had a role to play. Everyone in this situation was not professional at all, and everyone was trying to leverage certain relationships with executives to try to get each other fired. And ultimately, it didn't work, and ultimately what ended up happening was the whole show got taken off, right? But nonetheless, unless there's no more Zoom calls that leak, unless there's no more interviews that come out that, speak about TGIF, we're going to continue to talk about it as long as there's more information that comes out, because what you're supposed to do as a blogger, as a YouTuber, as a reporter, or what have you, is you continue the story. You see a particular story all the way through. If you broke the news about all of this chaos from the start, if you broke the news previously about the times that, Funky Dineva said something problematic on the show, or Al Reynolds said or did something problematic on the show, or we talked about the roast, we talked about Funky Dineva leaving, we talked about Funky Dineva speaking on his departure from Fox Soul. We talked about Armon getting the gig. We talked about, the roast. We talked about Lunel's appearance. We've talked about all these things, and then we talked about the show going on hiatus. And then we talked about Claudia Jordan's interview with Carlos King, which after that, effectively, the show was done. And we talked about, while the show was on hiatus, when Claudia Jordan was going into the different chats and saying that, this is Al's fault. She's trying to call him to resolve things, and he he wants no parts of it and he wanted to kill the show. So we've talked about all of this, you guys. So why wouldn't we talk about anything else that comes out, such as the leaked Zoom calls, such as Armon Wiggins responding to the Carlos King and Funky Dineva interview, such as Funky Dineva responding to Armon Wiggins live and the people that were dragging him that told him that he didn't know all the other behind the scenes, or maybe he did and was just simply protecting Al. But nonetheless, we were going to see this through. We're going to see this through, and as long as new information continues to come out about it, we'll continue to talk about it because you guys are interested, right? So nonetheless, there is that. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys again very soon.